you don't just have to release one time. There's a competing school of thought about this that suggests that multiple releasings, or even an ongoing releasing program, are as or more effective than just a single release. Now, this is like everything else. It's very likely that not only will one of these work for you more than the other, but one of these will probably work for you more consistently in certain situations than other situations. So some of your goals may work very well with a single release. Other of your goals may work very well with multiple or ongoing release techniques. Frankly, I'm not sure how realistic it is for you to be expected not to think of what you're trying to manifest, not only after you've completed the formula, but in general. If you are dirt poor and out of work and wondering where your next meal is coming from, and you decide to try to manifest your next meal, it's very difficult to imagine a situation where someone can simply put that out of their mind. But beyond that, most of us have pretty undisciplined minds. Unless you've really meditated and gotten very good at focusing attention and whatnot, the reality is that our minds tend to skip around a lot, and that it's very likely that we're going to find ourselves at some point dwelling on something that we've tried to use the formula on and thus release on. What that means is that we need a good way to deal with it. Well, one of the best ways to deal with it is to remain conscious of and actively prevent any counter thoughts to what you're trying to manifest. The interesting thing about those thoughts is that, let's say I'm trying to get, I'll just stay with my car example, a new car, and doubts creep in from time to time. And I think to myself, oh, I could never afford that car, or I'll never find the car that has all of the options and whatnot that I'm looking for. Well, these come and go in our mind very quickly. They're often fueled by very strong emotion. So they fit the formula well, right? We're really empowering them strongly with emotion, and then we're releasing them. If you can, what you want to do is try to become as aware as possible of those thoughts as they're rolling through your head and actively cancel them. A very good way of doing that is to simply say cancel, cancel. This is a popular method. It's difficult to tell who first came up with it. It's in the Sylvan material. It's in Eugene Maury's book, Power of Thought. It's kind of all over the place. The idea is that when you have a negative thought and you realize you're having a negative thought, simply say cancel, cancel. In other words, let your mind know that's not what we want. So let's look at this idea of ongoing releasing or multiple releasing, right? So release, release, release. Well, there's a few different ways to view the formula in general, and one of them is going to naturally lead to multiple releasing. So for instance, if you do the formula whenever you have a spare moment, and the financier that I mentioned earlier, a very good example of someone who does the formula in every spare moment. Certainly that's a possibility. And if you're doing the formula all the time, then you're going to be releasing all the time. Now, a flip side to that is to practice not so much the intent, expressing the intent all of the time, and, sort of keep doing that, but instead to express the intent, maybe express the intent here and there, to keep it out there, but to work much more strongly on release. I think you'll find that once you get in the groove with what works for you regarding release, you'll have really mastered the key. It's release that makes everything very, very effective. It's important to express intent for what you want, but it's release that really makes things very, very effective, especially as you're coming out from that far left side of the model. Now, eventually, you'll notice on the right side of the model that you move from release to surrender, so there are some distinctions here. But as you're on the left side of the model, or the first half of the model, the better you learn to release, the more results you're going to get. It's as simple as that. In fact, that's the reason why I have a session 2 and a session 3, why I didn't cover the whole formula. in one session because I wanted you to actually experiment and take some time playing around with the visualization plus emotion material. And I know it's very tempting once I say, listen, you've just got to really get good at release, to skip over that and to not experiment with that anymore. Now, there's another thing to keep in mind about this, and it's that can you really release without expressing the intent? I think it's kind of difficult to do. Because whatever it is that you're choosing to release on and whatever method you're using to release on, the reality is you know why you're doing it. In the back of your mind, at least somewhere, you're thinking, I'm doing this because. And because that's back there, you are, in fact, at least implicitly expressing your intent.